Interconnection requests in the U.S. soared in 2022 by about 40%, leading to long backlogs in that regulatory process. Warnings have come from the regional transmission operators that about 141 million Americans are at risk from an unstable grid. And innovations in solar greenhouses as well as solar panels along railroad tracks have recently been announced. I'm Jay Warmke with Blue Rock Station, and this is the news from the solar industry for the week of April 10th. So as mentioned, interconnection applications to the U.S. grid soared by about 40% in 2022, leading to a deep backlog. Now there are as much as 1,900 gigawatts of renewable energy in that backlog waiting to be approved to be connected. Of this, about 947 gigawatts is solar, about 670 gigawatts is energy storage, basically battery systems, about 300 gigawatts is wind, and about 100, little less than 100 is natural gas. So about 95% of this is renewable. Now, currently, the U.S. has about 142 gigawatts of solar installed in the U.S., so the backlog that's waiting to be installed is more than 4 times as much as currently exists in the country. Some of these regional authorities have actually stopped accepting applications for interconnection. And in fact, the California grid operator, Casio, they did not take any applications in 2022. And PJM, which operates in the Midwest, really pretty much from Chicago to New York, they said they're not even going to look at these applications they received last year until 2025. A lot of this backlog, this is really going to be the major thing that could slow down the U.S.'s transition to renewable energy. The regional transmission operators, such as Casio and PJM, they have recently issued dire warnings about the state of the nation's electrical grid. They did state that about 141 million residents in the U.S. are at risk for prolonged power outages due to increasingly occurring severe weather situations. Now, most of this is in the Midwest, really going up from Texas all the way up into North Dakota, Montana area, in New England, California, into North Carolina. Many of these operators are struggling just to meet regular demand, and they're looking through the summer months when electricity consumption is at its peak because of air conditioning. There are probably going to be quite a lot of rolling blackouts because of this. Mitrex, which is a Canadian manufacturer of solar panels, has announced that they're going to be building a 2.5 gigawatt solar panel manufacturing facility here in the U.S. They haven't actually announced where this will be located, but they do say this should employ about 250 full-time people once it's open. Now, Mitrex is a company that specializes in colored panels. A lot of these panels are used to match the roof color and texture in order for these panels to disappear into the background of a roof. Cornell University has announced that they've announced the findings of a project that is stating that by restoring about 100% of the domestic panel manufacturing, such as the one just announced by Mitrex, by 2035 could cut U.S. greenhouse emissions by as much as 30% over 2020 levels. It could also result in a cut of about 13% in energy consumption. Now, where these greenhouse gas emissions savings are coming from is essentially you're looking at a rapid transition to renewable energy on the grid, and domestic manufacturing will cut some of the supply chain disruptions. Also avoiding some geopolitical instability. I think they're talking about China here and some of the issues that may arise there. There's a lot of shipping costs as well as the emissions of shipping all these panels halfway around the world. It's going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And they're looking that these supply chain disruptions will result in more timely installation. All of these things will reduce greenhouse gas emissions, according to this study. Now, the U.S. is the second largest emitter of greenhouse gas worldwide. And actually combined, China, which is the largest emitter, the US and India combined account for a little over 42% of all of the greenhouse gases emitted worldwide. A team at UCLA has announced that they've constructed solar greenhouses. This technology using organic solar panels. Organic solar panels essentially use carbon-based materials rather than silicon-based materials when they're in their manufacturing. Now, some of the advantage of these particular panels is that they're low cost, they're lightweight, and they're very flexible. And in this case, they're semi-transparent, which then will allow the light to go inside the greenhouse. Disadvantages is they tend not to last as long when exposed to sunlight. Big disadvantage for solar panels. Now, they have found that by adding an antioxidant ingredient to the panel during the manufacturing process, that they do become much more stable, in fact, eliminating many of the organic solar panels' disadvantages. Now, the semi-transparent panel does indeed block a lot of ultraviolet as well as infrared light, and they found that the plants actually do better within these greenhouses than they would with a clear glass roof. And another interesting innovation, there's a Swiss startup company called Sunways, and Sunways is looking at installing solar along railroad tracks, in fact, fitting the panels right between the rails. These are installed with a special installation train, goes along the tracks, laying out these pre-manufactured solar arrays, essentially like you would lay out a rollout carpet onto this system. Then follow-up trains, or almost any train, can be fitted out with brushes that will keep these solar panels clean, clean of snow, clean of any kind of dust or dirt that may accumulate on them. Now, they're also removable because periodically these train tracks have to be serviced. Well, according to Sunways, there are about 1 million kilometers of rails worldwide that could receive these solar panels. Well, that's the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.